Today you will see something different from my usual content, and which I'm recently getting more interested in, and I mean naval stuff. So I hope you enjoy this one. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Modeller's Nest channel. This is the 1/700 scale U-48 with a Drydock from Flyhawk. The U-48 was a Type 7B German submarine during World War II and was the most successful U-boat during the war period. So, fair enough to have a nice model of it. The kit itself is super simple but very detailed. The whole submarine is basically 10 plastic pieces. There are also some PE parts included to add some minor details like railing, hatches and other things. I started this project by building the submarine. For this such small scale, there are a lot of details and the injection quality is super good. The sub comes in two halves and the conning tower. The remaining plastic parts are basically the control fins, propeller shafts and rudders. The fitting is great, just some minor sanding is required. The only thing I added here are the solder lines on the hull that I made from stretched sprue and thin cement, slightly sanded in the end, so they don't get too out of scale. The PE parts were glued with my favorite black superglue. They are excellent, but also extremely small. The 88mm deck gun comes in plastic, but the armor plates are a PE part and a nightmare to bend. Later I found out there is a bigger aftermarket PE sheet from Flyhawk with more pieces and details. So I decided to buy it because the kit's propellers are awful. And in this other sheet there are two beautiful ones, besides some more railings and other details, especially for the Drydock scenario. All black superglue was cleaned with the bonder. The painting started with the black 1500 surfacer from Mr. Hobby. The first layer of paint was a Tamiya XF63 German grey. For this such small kit I use my new Tamiya AGG airbrush, which allows a very controllable and fine trace. Later I mixed some white to the German grey and painted the hull with uneven layers, so the painting doesn't get too dull. Then I masked the hull and painted the upper hull and the conning tower with Tamiya XF80. Railings and other small details were painted with Vallejo colors and a fine brush. Before applying the decals, I gave that good protective automotive clear varnish coat. And as you can imagine, the decals are minuscule. The upper deck has a lot of textures, and I used some dry brush to highlight them. After that I started with washes, first with black to fill all the vents and limber holes to really increase the contrast, and then a dark grey on the deck and the conning tower just to build some small fake shadows, but without making it too prominent. To increase painting effects I opened my oils. I start with light greys on the hull, using dry and moisture brushes to give that runoff and salt effects along the sub. Later I used some browns and rusty colors to build some streaking grime with a more pronounced contrast, but just in a few spots, like close to the anchor, drainage opens and around the deck. For the rigging, I use a .047mm rubber line. It's almost impossible to see without a good background contrast. But I think this is the only reasonable material I had in hand for this scale, that don't get too thick and weird looking. Well, anyway, I glued it in place with PVA glue. Small drops of PVA glue were put on the rigging to simulate the insulators. Later I painted it with Vallejo rubber black. Now the insulators got more visible, and with the white background you can better see the result. And with this, the sub was pretty much done. Now let's move to the Drydock. The Drydock comes in two plastic pieces with a lot of textures. It fits quite well, but I had to use some stretch sprue to fill some gaps, but nothing too difficult to fix. Then the same Mr. Hobby black surface coat was applied to check for any visible flaws, and then started the fun but demanding step of painting all the stones with different Vallejo colors. On the Drydock walls I used the same Vallejo colors, but this time spreading it in bigger areas, painting only sparse bricks to increase contrast. Looking some reference photos of Drydocks, I noticed a quite wide range of colors. I decided to go with earth grey shades. So I mixed light grey and flat earth very diluted and applied in thin and uneven layers with the airbrush. And back to the oils and streaking grime effects. I really like to use oils to increase painting effects. Despite the long drying time, it is quite easy to blend the colors, making smooth transitions or high contrast streaks, and also easier to clean or correct applications. To paint the wood supports on the Drydock floor, I masked all between them and painted them with wet blending and Vallejo colors. I tried to make different shades for each support. In the end, I used deck tan and dry brush to highlight the edges and increase contrast. Some washes with dark browns were added to increase the moisture appearance here and there, and also to increase the shadows between stones. I also noticed some sand accumulations on the Drydock floor, according to the reference material. I scraped some pastel chalk, mixed it with small portion of water and PVA glue, and applied this mix with a brush and let it dry. Water puddles were also seen on historical and current photos, and I added them using Tamiya smoke. In the extra PE sheet comes a lot of wood crates, tables and chairs to enhance the Drydock scenario. Bending them was quite challenging given the tiny size of them. And I don't know how, but I didn't lose anything in the process. Later I painted everything with Vallejo colors. Now it's time to put everything together, first by placing the sub in position and then adding all the add-ons. I used PVA glue to fix them this time. The bond is not so strong, but it dries transparent and there are no visible stains. Of course you can't sneeze or heavily breathe near the diorama, otherwise you will see all your efforts going down the drain. But I guess this is better than getting upset or crazy with stronger glues ruining all the paint job at this stage. There are some wood rafters and ropes to keep the sub stable and in place during maintenance, as you can see in this photo. The wood rafters were made with plastic card cut to size and the ropes made from stretched sprue. They got a bit thick in my opinion, but it was the best I could pull off. I painted them with dark grey and later with diluted buff. As a final detail, I got some 1700 3D printed sailor figures. I painted them on the supports and then snapped them with tweezers. There were some casualties during the process, as some figures lost feet and legs, but I painted enough of them. The decal flag was placed on a piece of aluminum foil, cut to size, bent and glued in place, also with PVA glue. The last step was to place the diorama in this beautiful wood base, kindly made by my modeler friend. And this is it, the final result for this kit. Despite the tiny size, the diorama has only 12 cm length. It was quite fun to build, and a good challenge to increase my painting skills. I liked a lot the resultant effect on the whole scene. I must say that the aftermarket PE sheet adds a lot to the diorama, but the kit itself is already good enough to make a very nice model. I hope you like it, and if so, consider subscribe and leave a comment to help my channel grow. See you in the next time. Cheers!